So, Giles Terera, thank you so much for joining us in conversation with Complex Woman magazine.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
You're very welcome. Now, I want to talk to you about Walking the Light, the event that happened at the National Theatre. Tell us a little bit about Walking the Light.
Walking the Light was an idea that I had probably towards the end of last year, towards the end of 2012, because I knew that it was going to be the 50th anniversary this year of the National Theatre. And I thought, wouldn't it be good to have a moment where we look at and acknowledge and celebrate the contribution that black actors have made to the theatre? I started working here at the National just after I graduated a million years ago. 99 was when I started working here. And I was fortunate that I got to work with some brilliant actors, full stop, but a lot of them also happened to be brilliant black actors. Oscar James, Don Warrington I worked with while I was here. I worked with Ron Brewster while I was here. Clive Rowe I worked with while I was here. Cynthia Okonedo I worked with while I was here. Cyril and Ree. And I'd heard those experiences and I'd heard those stories about when they came over here and started working, which also coincides with pretty much when the National Theatre starts. So when thinking about the 50th anniversary of the National, I was also reminded of the stories I'd heard of black artists as well. And I thought it'd be a good idea to have a moment during the whole year at some point where you can acknowledge the contribution of black actors, because this is a national theatre and it is supposed to reflect the society that we live in. And it's been very good at that, especially in the last 10 years, about kind of opening up the doors, making people feel more welcome, having plays that are more diverse about different communities, different cultures that make up our collective culture.
Right, so for the benefit of the people who weren't fortunate enough to get along to any of the events, can you tell us about some of the people that you got to participate in the Walking the Light platform discussions and the celebration event? I mean, how did you get so many of those people all in one room?
Well, the idea was you'd have a week, the event would be a week series of events, so it'd be a week long, and through it you'd have some platforms and discussions and talkbacks, question and answers in the Olivier Theatre, the big main house. And we thought we'd start from the earliest days in the 60s and then work our way through to sort of young actors, and we'd have directors, writers and actors. And we had 2 of those talkbacks per day. So we managed to get a lot of voices and a lot of stories and a lot of experiences in there. And it was simply a case of working our way through using the Blank Plays archive, it must be said, very helpful. Making a list of the people and the moments, the productions that sort of were seminal, things that really landmark moments, landmark performances, landmark plays, and just really trying, because you can't include everyone, you're not going to cover everything. We're talking about 50 years. It's a huge amount of time, it's a huge amount of artists, but just trying to pinpoint key moments, key figures, and then approach them and ask them if they'd be interested. And a lot of the actors that I was able to contact said yes immediately. Let's do it. Let's go.
Right. So let's name names. Who did you get from people who weren't lucky enough to get along? And
We kicked off with Mr. Fumatura, Oscar James, Carmen Monroe, and Don Warrington. That was the first day. That was day one. And you got to know that you could have a week on each one of those people.
Right.
Full stop. And then we moved into we had David Harewood was there, Gary Wilmot was there, Bonnie Greer was there, Paula Randall was there. We moved through to Clive Rowe, we had Kwame was there, we had, who else did we have? It was too many people.
Too many people.
There's too many people. And then everyone that couldn't a lot of the people that we'd had during the week we invited back to the climax of the event, which was a celebration where it was more performance-based. In the Littleton, 90 minutes, and we had excerpts from plays, we had song, we had spoken word poetry, Lenny Henry introduced and led the whole thing. We had a company of 70 actors up on stage. We had a 50-voice choir. It was special. It was a kind of great way to end what was a very special week. So.
Well, it was certainly inspirational, I have to say. I was there at the finale, if you will, the celebration event, and I want to talk about a piece of poetry that I believe you composed specifically for that.
Right.
Is it called I'll Walk With You?
It's called I'll Walk With You, yeah, that's right. And I knew that I wanted to have a moment where we were going to have excerpts from plays, which necessarily take place between actors on stage, but I wanted to have a moment where we on stage could address directly the people who we were here to celebrate, most of whom were in the audience, and to address directly the audience. And I thought that was best done through poetry, this spoken word poetry, which we have a very rich tradition of. I'll walk with you. You have done the state some service, and we know it. You walked from off the whispering sands, held hands with familiar strangers, excited by the dangers that lay in the land of kings and queens, England, a place you'd heard about, read about, saluted and sung to. And as you sailed or flew, England was the young dream you clung to. You left behind sisters and singing grands, children, warning fathers and silent mothers whose only words were to God, take care of my child, Lord. Don't let them hurt my child. And as you landed in England, now with no sand beneath your feet, no road, now street, perhaps another black face smiled and said, come, I'll walk with you.
I don't know how you did it. In some ways, I think you set yourself something of an impossible task. I'm sure you had to be incredibly tenacious. There must have been times when you thought, I don't know, I'm not loving this today. Tell me about, maybe some really challenging moments and how you got through putting an event like this together.
Things are difficult. Things are always difficult. Anyone that knows, that's tried to put anything together in theatre or film or music or anything, everything is difficult. But you have to have a kind of focus, a singular focus, and work towards that. There's always going to be difficult days when people say, oh, I can't do it now, or I'm filming now abroad and I've got to go, and those are sort of difficult moments. But on the whole, you kind of focus on the good things and just sort of keep going. And I knew that it was something that I would want to see, and that's what I focus on. That's something I'd like to be part of and witness. And so it was almost as if it kind of already happened, and I was sort of already had it in my head and said, okay, no, if we just keep going, you'll sort of see what I mean. And
I just want to move away from Walking the Light for a moment and talk about you and your workload, because you are multifaceted. I think if you weren't doing this, you could be giving workshops in time management. How do you fit it all in? You're a West End star, you're currently starring in Book of Mormon, and I know that you have just finished producing, directing, writing a film. Do you want to tell our readers a little bit about the film?
The film is a documentary, feature documentary called Muse of Fire, and there's myself and another actor who I trained with, and we were always terrified of Shakespeare at the school, and we studied it, but we sort of didn't really get it, and we were made to feel a bit stupid because we didn't really get it. But then we came to London and trained, and we had a brilliant teacher who kind of opened it all up to us. So we thought, let's go back to that point where we didn't really get it and ask those questions. Why didn't we get it? What was the barrier between us and Shakespeare?
So Giles, just to close out now, what next for Walking the Light?
Well, we're talking here at the National. And we'd like to try and make a film, make a documentary, because we film the whole thing. So we're looking at what we need to do to make a lasting visual document out of it. It will be, parts of it will be present on the archive here at the National Theatre. You can go and look and listen to the platforms that took place. And also we're going to do a book about it, which means that we can sort of include more of the history, and we can go into more detail. Some of the people that we didn't manage to speak to, we can go back and we can speak to. So look for a book, and look for documentary and look on the archive.
Great, great. Well, I'll certainly be looking for that. I look forward to it. Thank you very much, Giles Terera, for joining us here in Conversation with Complex Woman.
My pleasure. Keep up the good work.
Get your vibe on the feelings like don't wanna